As Lowell mentioned, I want to talk about the project I worked on this summer in Rome, treated sites of spectacle and their effect on urban space over time. I started the project by studying a sequence of 4 historic maps. Once I got to Rome, I looked at 4 ancient sites and 4 contemporary sites. The ancient sites were in the historic center. The contemporary, more or less, sites were in the Flaminio district, just north of that. And I really wanted to bring together 4 drawing types, plan, section, perspective, and axonometric, in order to sort of challenge the more objective urban mappings that have emerged and make them more subjective and ephemeral urban drawing type. Nearest to my apartment, I started to look at Palazzetto dello Sport, designed by Nervi in 1959 for the 1960 Olympics. It's a pretty interesting little spaceship of a building, but it's surrounded by rings of roads, rings of infrastructure, so the approach to it is pretty difficult. So it's unfortunate because at night the thing glows like a lantern and could be a really nice public space from your definition like we're going to see later in the Pantheon. But that's just not the case. The way the roads encircle the site makes that almost impossible. Which isn't dissimilar from the next site, which is the Parco della Musica, designed by Renzo Piano in the early 2000s as a way to sort of revitalize the Flaminio district, which has suffered since the 1960 Olympics. The public spaces within the Parco della Musica range from somewhat engaging to very engaging, but it sort of depends on the event. If you can pay for a ticket, then it's public, but that's really it's not the public also. There's this issue of a bounded condition. It acts sort of like a city within a city, and the public spaces are somewhat compromised. Even when you do go, when the gates are open, you feel like you're trespassing. You actually randomly got in trouble for trespassing. Further down the road is the Maxi by Zaha Hadid, opened this year, also an effort to make Flaminio an arts district. And if you look at the plan of this building, it promises sort of root swoop and pull you through the galleries and also potentially tie together all the greening of the Flaminio district, which has grown over time. But because of the bounding conditions on the 2 sides in particular, it's hard to even get in. Again, unfortunately, at night, the public space underneath the cantilever galleries and the curving edge of this building is amazing, but it's not always open and it's not always in vain. So the public space isn't probably once a year. This isn't a problem in the center. Gaston-Bonne is one of my favorite places in the entire world. It's built slowly over time on the foundation of the Venetian Stadium. The centerpiece is doing is obelisk and fountain. And again, we're dealing with rings of infrastructure, but somehow it just works. And so the drawings, taking cues from the photographic studies you saw earlier, and the sort of accretive nature of Rome and the built up over time, tries to combine these urban axiometric sections, perspectives, and plans or maps to really get a composite idea of what the extent of the urban space is within these sites. So next we look at the Theater of Marcellus, commemorated by Julius Caesar, built by Augustus. Sort of breaks the Peruvian canon and opens to the west in order to front the river. But it's really interesting because of the way it's accreted structurally over time. Some of the swankiest apartments in Rome are on the top of that structure. And so the drawing then looks at that process. The top left is 320 AD. It's a very sparse space around the theater. The drawing on the bottom left is from the time of the Noli map. Things have been filled considerably, and then to the right is the more or less current condition, perspective section moving back in time. And then you can't go to Rome without talking about the Pantheon, built by Agrippa, rebuilt by Hadrian. It's been a temple, it's been a church. Some people say it's been a bath, but it hasn't always existed this way. In 320 AD, it's one of the key dates. On the west, it was open to the Campus Martius. So the character was definitely different from what it is now. But over time, the increasing value of land and the need for housing and other amenities, so to speak, made this site far more valuable in a different way. Sort of the qualities of light, shadow, etc., as well as the fountain and the exceedingly active public space. And in these 2 studies, I realized that you start to draw the public space and you start to draw the building, but the extent of the public space may be larger than that. So you another sheet to talk about that, and so it's giving the extent of the territory that the public space takes on. This is perspective drawing, and how do you represent public space with a perspective? I guess I'm still kind of figuring it out, but the intention is that the figures represent public space. So when you see orange figures, you are seeing public space. And then, unlike the previous sort of collages or composite drawing, with the Pantheon drawing, just started to just take one sheet and overlay it on another. And I think they're maybe a little bit more successful and more like the Accretive Urbanism and interior drawing as well. And ties together all these different drawing types that I wanted. And this is all led up to what I'm currently working on, which is a study of the Foro Italico, which we're buzzing through right now. This is the entrance to Piazzale della Vittoria, the Stadio Olimpico, and we're going to make our way over to the Stadio dei Marmi. Most of them were designed in the late 1930s by Mussolini, and then reused in 1960 for the Olympics. And I think the Piazzale della Vittoria is really interesting because more or less it's the same scale as Piazza Navona, but certain aspects make it not very minimal in public use. And there's also a very confused history. It's covered with fascist imagery, including inscriptions of fascist states. And I guess I'll close with this in comparison to the Piazzale della Vittoria. The Oslo Opera House by Snow had another white marble public space, but far more active, and just done a lot for the city of Oslo. I can't think that's all I can do the same.